Welcome back to the 815 Exchange. I am your host, Chris Crenshaw, and we are live for the final time for quite a while, as it is time for me to return back and be a student at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. So for the final time for a couple months, we are live from the 336. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, or if you're new, welcome if this is your first time. This is going to be fun. We have a very fun episode because there's plenty to talk about, but it's not super stacked. There's more focus type stuff, and of course there's a certain event that just happens to be today, probably around the time that this may be published on YouTube, that will be going on, that I'm going to start off with. But of course, before I start, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Y'all been going kind of crazy with that lately. I think I had the most likes I've had ever on the last video, bar I think the first video. So thank you. Let's keep growing. Let's keep kind of developing. And yeah, it just gets better, better and better every week. That's the goal. So what else? Like, share, and subscribe. Timestamps, as always, are in the description. So if you're looking for a particular subject or topic, highly recommend going to the timestamps. Long form content, I get it. It's a 40, 50, sometimes even an hour long video. You don't always have the time to watch it all the way through, or you don't care to watch me talk about everything, or just want to see me talk about something in particular. Skip right to it. Timestamps in the description. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's Monday. It's Monday, January 11th, when I'm filming this. 10:30 in the morning, which means it's the day of the national championship. We're going to start off with college football for the final time. For a while, also, another thing that's done after this episode for a while. The last college football kind of rundown, except probably last week when I recapped the national championship. But Alabama versus Ohio State. Yes. Finally, we have reached the day of the national championship. It is highly anticipated. It was a very chaotic at times, a very interesting, a lot of hardships had to be overcome for these teams and players. But we are finally here with the top two teams in the country, Alabama and Ohio State, which is probably not that surprising if you kind of take in what we thought ahead of time going into the season. Especially if Ohio State in the Big Ten, hadn't started late. I feel like OSU would have probably been, along with Clemson, of course, in that top three pretty much the whole year. But nonetheless, Bama, Ohio State. I said I was doing my prediction this week, and I'm going to keep that promise. I think it's going to be a very high-scoring game. You can come back and laugh at me and pick me apart on these predictions if it doesn't happen tonight when you come back and watch this video. But I think it's going to be a very high-scoring game. I feel like Alabama has the better defense, however, and I don't think Ohio State's defense is going to be able to do enough to stop Alabama's offense, which is historically good. So I got Alabama. I think Alabama wins the national championship. It feels like this is a year in which Alabama and Nick Saban would claim another title. Feels like everything's just right. They haven't won one in a while, so it feels like they're due. I know that's going to be to the dismay of many Ohio State fans and my friends that are Ohio State fans. But if I had to pick, and I'm going to pick, I would say Bama's going to win this game. For the simple facts that I mentioned last week. Shaun Wade, he's a great nickel corner, but putting him on the outside with Devontae Smith, good luck. I'm very interested to see how healthy Waddle is for Alabama, because a healthy Jalen Waddle actually might be the best receiver on that team, as crazy as that sounds. Because he was doing a lot of the things that Devontae had to pick up responsibility-wise and do. Waddle was doing a lot of those things pre-injury and in previous seasons. So if he's healthy, then that's another dynamic player. If he's 90%, that's still another major dynamic factor and weapon for Ohio State to deal with, and I don't know if they have the guys. They don't. This defense does not have a Joey Bosa or a Nick Bosa or a Chase Young or a Malik Hooker or a Jeffrey Okuda. There's nobody on that defense that is a major factor. There's good players on that defense. There's players with potential on that defense. But there's no real dogs on that defense like they've had in the past. So when you're going against an offense like Alabama, I just don't see, even in the decimation of Clemson, a week and a half ago, Clemson still, even in people thought it was, I guess this was an off game for Trevor Lawrence and Clemson or whatever, offensively, they still scored, I think, 29 points, almost 30. So imagine what Alabama's offense, with all those great receivers, with Billingsley, the very good tight end, I won't call him great. He's a dynamic factor. You got Najee Harris in their stable of backs. Mac Jones, even though I didn't say he was a weapon, he has been a weapon with how he played and how consistent he is. He doesn't do anything really wrong. He just does everything right. Gets it to these playmakers. He's, very dependable. And I don't think this is a team that's going to, shake Mac Jones and cause him to go off course. So I see Ohio State's defense really having a lot of problems. Not that Alabama's defense is lights out either, because they're not. And Ohio State has a very good offense. Trey Sermon's been playing out of his mind. Ezekiel Elliott Sermon. Justin Fields, of course, is the second best quarterback probably in the nation when he's playing like Justin Fields and not like he, has played. That's another story going into this game. Is Justin Fields going to play like Justin Fields? That's going to be a very, very, very important and telling in what happens in this game. Is which Justin Fields do we see? Do we see elite Justin Fields, or do we see Justin Fields that has disappeared as he has a couple times this year? Let's see. Ohio State, again, receivers galore. Though Bama does, I have to admit, has a better defense, a slightly better defense than Ohio State's. So I think they can do a better job of containing that Ohio State offense. I don't think they'll stop them. As I said, I think this is going to be a very high-scoring game. Probably very, very entertaining for neutral viewers. But I do see Bama winning. I think they win pretty handedly as well. I can see maybe a two-score game. By Bama wins like 40 to 30 something or 50 to 40 something. It's going to be a high-scoring one. But yeah, that's my college football national championship prediction. I have Alabama taking it over Ohio State. We'll see if I was correct. All right, transitioning from college football, we are going to stay in the college world and collegiate sports, and of course that means we're going to college basketball. Let's see. Couple things. Nothing too major happened this week in college basketball. The Big Ten has still been, the conference in college basketball. A plethora of ranked teams, a plethora of good matchups. We've talked about them pretty much every week. Iowa this week, they took on Minnesota. Luka Garza, 33 points, National Player of the Year. I know Gonzaga. I know Jared Butler for Baylor. I know there's other great players, but I don't see anybody taking it for Garza. He's averaging 27 and 9 this season. He's a beast. I'm very interested to see what his draft stock ends up being because athletic centers are currently the wave, and centers that can do a multitude of things are the wave right now. That is the trend right now in the league, and that seems to be where the best centers are coming from. So I'm very interested to see what happens to Garza. I think he's very skilled offensively, especially inside. Of course, if this was 20 years ago, he'd be the number 1 overall pick. But I think also with Garza, I've seen this year and a little bit last year, is he can also shoot it. He has some pretty good touch on his shot. We'll see if that's actually a consistency or if it's a flash in the pan type thing. But Garza can shoot it a little bit. Of course, 27 and 9. He's a big body. There's concerns about his defense, about his mobility. Though there's some centers that do very well in the league that aren't all that mobile, if I'm being honest. I think Garza's a first round pick. We'll see if he's lottery. I don't know if I can say all that yet. I have to see more film and, evaluate him a little bit more closely. But Garza living up to the hype, looking like he's going to be National Player of the Year so far. Iowa gets a big, big victory over Marcus Carr and that Minnesota team. Duke, we are back to winning ways. Got 2 wins this week in ACC play against Wake Forest and Boston College. Matthew Hurt is the best player on that team. He's definitely living up to that 5-star billing he had going into last season. He's a sophomore, of course. 20-8. I think he'll be in ACC Player of the Year conversations for sure. Jalen Johnson's still out for us. Wendell Moore stepped up and then went right back to, bad Wendell after he had the best game. One of the best games I've seen him. One of the best games I've seen him having a Duke uniform. What else? What else was I going to say about us? Of course, Coach K had the thing where he was out. He's back now, so that's great. Yeah. Duke back to winning ways. We'll see if it's sustainable. The ACC is in a down year, but even those games are relatively close, especially that Wake game going into it late before we kind of pulled away. So it could be a very chaotic season just overall in college basketball, not even just the Big Ten. I think it's going to be kind of a little bit all over the place, especially with the traditional powers not having great seasons. Though I've talked about them a bunch. Kentucky, I will talk about them briefly. They weren't on my notes, but I did remember. Kentucky, I think, has won 2 or 3 straight. Deontay Allen stepped up big time in one of them. And yeah, it seems like they're playing better. I'm not too surprised. I expected Kentucky at some point to surely kind of start to turn that corner. And it appears that they have, starting to get over that developmental curve that caused them to have such a historically bad for Kentucky start to the season. We'll see if they can make up some of that ground. And they can continue to develop. I expect them to continue to develop. And, of course, the in-season Kentucky is always better than the beginning of the season Kentucky. Very rarely do Kentucky teams regress. I will say that's one thing Cal does well, and that's kind of develop his team and get a better lineups. He gets more of the chemistry, starts to kick, and he does a much better job towards the tail end of the season than he does at the beginning. And we'll see if that works for UK. Back to the notes. Baylor and Gonzaga still undefeated. Business as usual for them. Still looking like the 2 best teams in the country. Jared Butler, Corey Kispert starring this week. They did their thing. Jay Ajayi, I know, had a triple-double. Suggs, still Jalen Suggs. Again, 2 best teams in the country, it seems. They've kind of separated themselves. We'll see if they can keep that separation. Also in the Big 12, Andrew Jones, leukemia survivors. Shout out to Andrew Jones, former 4-star prospect, I believe. Highly talented 4-star, nearly a 5-star prospect. Andrew Jones, he's a senior now at Texas. Gone through a lot, of course, the leukemia and battling that and coming back from that. And still being a very good player in college basketball. Well, he had the game winner this week to push this number 4 in the country Texas team over West Virginia, another ranked team. Again, it's a strange season. Shaka Smart really starting to get himself some job security, I think, this year. Texas playing like the expectations for Texas have been over the past couple of years. The fans have been clamoring for them to have some sort of success and be challenging for that top 10. Well, they're a top 10 team this year. Got guys like Andrew Jones and Matt Coleman leading the charge. We'll see what Texas can do, but that's a big, big win against West Virginia. The West Virginia team that's reeling since Oscar Tshiebwe left the program for the season. We're not quite sure why exactly he did that, but he did do that. So we will see, but that's college basketball. Okay, all right. One of the bigger topics of the week, of course, is the NFL. We have the NFL playoffs start this week. Of course, if you follow me on Twitter, which if you haven't already, social media links are in the description or at the end of this video. You saw I was very active talking about that. And yeah, so let's get straight to it. Bills Colts. Bills get the win 27-24. I'm gonna be honest. Some of these games, well, nah, it was pretty good. I was gonna say I wasn't really feeling the same quality of the playoffs this year as the past, but actually, I'm gonna take that back. Looking at these scores, kind of like remembering me watching, they weren't too bad. I feel like it didn't have some of the same excitement, some of the same moments. Some of them did, but some of them didn't. This was one that did. This was a very good game. The Bills and Colts. Bills nearly get the win. Of course, Rivers gets that Hail Mary patted down by Micah Hyde at the end there. Josh Allen went 26 for 35, 324. Phillip Rivers 27 for 46, 309, 2 touchdowns. Honestly, out of all of the kind of former superstar, former top tier, I guess we can call Phillip Rivers back in his prime a top tier quarterback. I feel like Chargers will argue for that. I'll give it to him. I'll say at least this past guard of quarterbacks, a very good quarterbacks at the very least. Rivers, I feel like he's kind of been underrated in his play as he's gotten older. He hasn't really, he's been, compared to like Big Ben Roethlisberger, who I'll get to later on, in that entire Steelers-Browns game. He hasn't really, kind of had those, he's had his moments where it's like, okay, he's not the same. But for the most part, Rivers has played pretty well for the Colts, I think, this year. And he played well in this playoff game, but unfortunately not enough. That Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs duo, I don't know if there's a better receiver quarterback duo in the league right now than Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. First team All-Pro as well for Diggs this year. He's looked like one of the best receivers in the league, which is what he is talent-wise. Well, the talent has matched the production this year, certainly. He had 6 receptions, 128, and a touchdown in this game. Jonathan Taylor, who was third, that all rookies in rushing this year. He was third in the rushing title race this year. 21 carries, 78 yards, touchdown. Nice game for him. Shout out to my guy, Michael Pittman Jr., him and Kiana. If you don't, they have a YouTube channel. It's great if you want an insight on NFL players' life and even some of his stuff at USC. Definitely recommend go watching that. Announced he had a kid coming this week, and he balled out. 5 receptions, 90 yards, so congrats to him. Fortunately, he took the L. I know he'll take that to tough. It's good, take that to heart, and that'll hurt a little bit. But I think it was a good learning experience for the young players the Colts have. They got a great young core I think they're developing. We'll see what they do at quarterback with Rivers going up there in age. But solid season, but they lost to a better team. The Bills, I think they're going to be in the AFC Championship personally, and could be Super Bowl contenders. Well, they are Super Bowl contenders. But, very good game, especially late. But Colts ran out of time. Bills get it done. They move on. Rams took on the Seahawks. My goodness. In my pool that I'm in, the playoff pool I'm in, I don't know why. I had a thought when I was picking the Seahawks. I picked them twice as well. I had this thought and I was like, man, the Seahawks, I don't have a good feeling about them. I don't have a good feeling about Papa Russ. They always they just haven't been the same. I looked at their past scores and saw they were doing well though, so I picked them, right? I'm feeling all the regret. I'm feeling all of the regret. I don't know what it is about what the difference is between first half Seahawks, as in first half of the season Seahawks, and last half of the season Seahawks. But it's two completely different teams. That's two completely different teams. Two completely different teams. Russell Wilson had an awful game. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. 11 for 27, 174, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Let me see if he did anything rushing. 50 yards rushing, but still, just a hair at that point over 200 yards combined in a playoff game, and you're supposed to be one of the best quarterbacks in the. Come on. Rams defense, have to give a shout out to them though. Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey had DK Metcalf in lockdown. He had him in clamps. He had them in a vice grip. DK could do nothing against them. Though DK did end up with 5 receptions, 496 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So, not a bad game from DK. But, That Ramsey matchup certainly was giving him some problems, as it has the entire year. Cam Akers, this running back class, these past couple running backs classes have really revitalized the running back position. I know a couple years ago we had Bishop Sankey as the fourth running back off the board. People were running if the running back position was going to get ushered out, if it was dead. It is not dead. Cam Akers, 28 carries, 131, 1 touchdown. Did some heavy lifting for that Rams offense. With Goff, only 9 for 19, 155 and a touchdown. Of course, John Wolford, who stepped in last week, did a great job. A lot of people were high on him going into this game. Former XFL star, AAF star, excuse me. No shout to the XFL. I'm very excited to see that league. But former AAF star John Wolford came in, got injured in this game, had to come out. Goff comes back in, pitches a very solid game, enough to get them the win, and that's all that matters. All that really matters in the playoffs. It doesn't really matter how you win. It doesn't really matter how much you win by. It's the matters that you win. It's win or go home. It's about getting to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl. It doesn't matter how you win. It matters that you win. And in this case, it appears defense does. In fact, we don't know if they're going to win the championship, but defense wins games because they shut down the Seahawks and the Rams move on. Next game in the NFC, and the final I got one more game in the NFC, which is the Bears and the Saints. But first, before we get to that, we got to finish the Saturday games. Buccaneers took on the Washington football team. Taylor Heinicke, of course, was the big star of the night, even though Washington took the L and they only scored 23 points. But Heinicke, a lot of people were impressed with him. 6 for 40, 6 carries, 46 yards in that great diving touchdown. 26 for 44, 301 and a touchdown. Did have an interception. Not a bad game for Heinicke. The Washington football team has struggled with quarterback play this year, so I get why fans were excited, seeing somebody perform at a good level, because it's not something they've really had this year. They've relied on that defense, but that defense is very young, and that defense is not that good. If I'm being honest, they're not good enough to shut down this Tampa Bay offense, at least. Tom Brady, 43 years old, 22 for 40, 381, 2 touchdowns. It's too easy for him. It's too easy. Fournette had a good game. 19 carries, 93 yards, 1 touchdown. We'll see if Fournette steps up here. Running the ball can be very important here in playoff games, especially in football, especially in the NFL. Mike Evans, he was perfectly fine. A lot of people were worried if he was going to play this week. 6 receptions, 119. Great game for Evans. And yeah, also, special shout out to Gronk. He had the job of blocking Chase Young. He did a very good job blocking Chase Young in this game. I had a lot of questions personally about his mobility and what Gronk still had left. Well, he still had plenty apparently. So shout out to Gronk. Very impressed with what he did in this game. And yeah, Bucks get the win. Bucks get the win. Moving on, we got the Ravens and the Titans. Ravens get the win 20-13. This was a big defensive battle. Of course, we have Marcus Peters. Man, if Marcus Peters could tackle, even just a little bit, he would be one of the truly elite corners. And maybe his coverage skills are good enough to warrant giving him truly elite corner. I think he's in that upper echelon, of course, of cornerbacks in the league. But man, if he could tackle, he would truly be one of the great corners of the league. But he gets the game-winning pick. Ravens celebrate and pay the Titans back for celebrating on their logo. Ravens return the favor and beat the Titans at home. And how about that defense, man? Even besides Peters and besides that secondary, Marlon Humphrey included, completely shut down Derrick Henry. The 2,000-yard rusher, MVP candidate, best running back in the league, was non-existent yesterday. 18 carries, 40 yards. Completely shut him down. Lamar had a great game. A solid game through the air. 17 for 24, 179 is not bad. But he did his best stuff on the ground, as Lamar does. 16 carries, 136, one touchdown. He was very impressive. Made a lot of big plays for them when they needed to be made, and helped get this team the win. Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, 7 receptions, 109 for him. A.J. Brown continues to be one of the best young receivers in the league. 6 receptions, 83 yards, and a touchdown. Accounted for most of Tannehill's production. But yeah, unfortunate for Vrabel. Their offensive coordinator really didn't call a great game, but I have to give a lot of credit to this Ravens team. They were focused. They had to get that monkey off their back. A lot of questions about whether Lamar could win in the playoffs. Can the Ravens win the big game with this team, with Lamar? And they proved it. They played a lot better down the stretch here, and they've continued that momentum. Great job by the defense. We'll see if they can keep it up next game, but good win for the Ravens. Continuing the rivalry games, this rivalry Sunday is really what you could have called it instead of super wild card or whatever, because it felt like all of these games were rivalries with all the stuff that happened in these games. Saints took on the Bears. Of course, they had that fight and featuring Javon Wims a couple weeks ago. Javon Wims had a very costly drop in this game. Then you had Anthony Miller get thrown out of the game for throwing a punch. Wasn't a great game for the Bears. It wasn't a great game for y'all. Breezes, 28 for 39, 265, 2 touchdowns. Kamara, 23 carries, 99 yards in the tub for him. David Montgomery, only 31 yards through the ground. Let's see. Michael Thomas had a touchdown. Yeah, just good stuff. Good stuff for the Saints. Defense was phenomenal. And yeah, really just handled business. This was probably one of the more boring, if I'm being honest, playoff games. Not too interesting. Saints were really in control the entire time. And yeah, Bears really couldn't really get anything doing. We'll see what they do about Trubisky. We'll see what they do going into this offseason. I think changes need to be made for the Bears to make that next step if they want to make that next step. But Saints advance. And lastly, in the wild card, we had, of course, the Browns take on the Steelers. I had plenty to talk about in this game. Browns went up 28-0, I think, in the first quarter. Yeah, 28-0 to start the game. Completely obliterated the Steelers, and it looked like it was going to be a blowout. I had a banger tweet. Very well prepared. I was ready. Had the TikTok ready. I was ready to slander the Steelers, but I have to give them credit. This very little bit of credit I'm going to give them for this game. They stayed with it. They fought back, 48-37. Made it respectable. And that's pretty much the best thing I can say about them. I don't know what happened to the Steelers defense that was great all fantasy season long for me, but they didn't show up in this game. Baker Mayfield completely shredded that Steelers team. 21 for 34, 263, 3 touchdowns. Jarvis Landry looked like the Jarvis Landry of old. He had 5 receptions, 92, and a touchdown. Chubb had 76 yards. Kareem Hunt, 2 touchdowns through the ground. Yeah. Complete performance for the Browns offense. They had a phenomenal game. Had one of the best games they may have played all season. Arguably, you could probably say the best game that Browns offense has played all season. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Ben Roethlisberger, final stat line. 47 for 68. 501 yards. 4 touchdowns and 4 interceptions for Ben. Pop the tweet up. I got probably like the, field pick or whatever game action pick here. So, Chris and editing, would you please drop in the tweet that you tweeted out yesterday? Ben is washed. I know he had a nice little comeback. I know he threw for 501 yards. I know he had 4 touchdowns. I know 47 completions on any other day is great. He also had 21 incompletions. You have to keep in account, by the way. He also threw 4 interceptions. Ben is washed. I've been saying this also for the Saints. Also for all the teams with the Asian quarterbacks. It's a great quarterback class. It's time to invest. You need to draft a quarterback this year. Or you need to give the Jets a call and you need to say, can we have Sam Darnold? Steelers absolutely need to acquire a young quarterback to develop. We know Mason Rudolph is not the guy. He's not the answer. With all due respect, and I mean this with the absolute utmost respect, he's trash. He's got the ceiling of a solid backup. He ain't going to be your starter. If you put Mason Rudolph and think he's going to be the future of this team, somebody pray for Pittsburgh. Y'all need to draft a quarterback. Ben is not who Ben was. It's been obvious the entire season. Yeah, he threw for 501 yards, but it took him 68 attempts. He also threw 4 picks. Like I said, just too inconsistent. He doesn't got it. He's washed. I was very prepared to have give Juju a hard time. Honestly, I'm not even going to hate on him. You know, he deserves to get slandered for what he said. But it's a rivalry game. You know, I'm not hating. You know, same thing I didn't hate on Dabo for making Ohio State the 11th ranked team. It's all gamesmanship. This is all gamesmanship by these coaches. This is how this works. This is how this goes. You know, so I have real no problem with what he said about the Browns. I don't think he looks like, I mean, you can say, sure, he looks like a clown or whatever because they lost and nearly got blown out or whatever. But it is what it is. He showed up. 13 receptions, 157 and a touchdown. This loss can be attributed to Juju. He did his thing. He showed up to play, but that defense didn't show up at all. That run game didn't show up at all. Ben, for the first half, didn't show up at all. The receiver showed up, but, you know, wouldn't know if the receiver show up for the Steelers. Steelers take this L for the first time in over 20 years. Ladies and gentlemen, congratulations to the Cleveland Browns. You have won a playoff game and you advance. All right, so to kind of update you on the bracket here for next week's matchups, before I hop into my next subject, we got the Rams and the Packers in the NFC. Yeah, I'll go through the full NFC. I won't split it up. Actually, no, I'll do by day. I did the last games by day. I did the recap by day. I should do this by day. Saturday, you got the Packers and the Rams. Of course, the Rams going to the Packers. And you got the Ravens and the Bills. I got the Packers winning that Rams game. I got the Bills taking it over the Ravens. Though, I think those will be 2 very interesting games. The Rams and Ravens could be potential dark horses. You could say they are dark horses in this playoffs. Especially with the defenses and when they played last week. Don't know if they're going to be able to keep it up, but we'll see. We'll see. It should be very interesting. And on Sunday, man, it's wild to see the Browns this good. But the Browns, they get the worst matchup. They get the Chiefs, the team with the best record in the league, the reigning defending champions. Yes, Browns, your reward for getting your first playoff win in well over 20 years is, of course, the best team on the planet currently. We'll see if they can retain that title. Saints and the Buccaneers, of course, are the other game in the nightcap. Unfortunately, Browns fans, I got the Chiefs in that first game. The Saints and the Buccaneers is a very interesting one. Very interesting one. They've had some pretty good games this year. I don't know who to pick there. I think I split it in my playoff bracket because I did have them two facing each other. I think on one sheet I had the Bucs winning, one sheet I had the Saints winning. For the sake of predictions, and since it might be Drew's last year, I'll go with the Saints. We'll see if they win. We'll come back to this and see what happens. But those would be my predictions. But yeah, so break it down by conference. Packers, Rams, Saints, Bucks, Ravens, Bills, and of course Chiefs, Browns. You let me know who you think is going to advance. It should be a very interesting week. A lot of great games, hopefully. So that's the NFL. NBA time. Let's get it. Last. I think this is my last major subject. Yep. Last major subject I have here in my notes. We got the NBA. Bradley Beal. This man scored 60 points in an L. I'm here to give Bradley Beal his flowers. Right now on the 815 Exchange, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to give Bradley Beal his well-deserved flowers. I think I can say he's one of the best shooting guards, one of the best guards in the game today. I feel like I can say that comfortably. I think he's very underrated for what he's been doing the past 2 seasons, especially. I don't know if there's been enough talk about it. I know it's because the Wizards suck, but Bill needs his flowers. Imagine scoring 60 points in a game and losing, and losing, and losing. Wizards, what happened? What happened? Bill currently averaging 35 a game. Of course, that leads the league. He averaged nearly a 30 ball, or did average a 30 ball last year. Bill's been phenomenal since John Wall got hurt, and he's really stepped up. Honestly, I think I'd take Bradley Beal over John Wall currently. I know a couple years ago when they started that duo, when Will and John Wall was coming fresh off of Kentucky in the mixtapes, Wall was much higher regarded. But honestly, the way Bill's developed and what he's become as a scorer and how much he now means to that Wizards team, man. Yeah, I gotta give some. This is a Bradley Beal appreciation, moment. So giving Bill his flowers. We'll see if he can continue this rapid scoring rate throughout the season. See what he can do. We'll see if the Wizards can get back on track. They got some pieces there. Of course, they got Russ. They drafted Denny. We'll see what happens throughout the season. Again, still early days, but shout out to Bradley Beal. Another player that needs a shout out is Zach Lavine. His development has been nuts. I mean, I didn't know if he would become this good, but I knew he was going to get a lot better coming out of UCLA. I knew he wasn't just a dunker with the way he played. I actually liked him better than Wiggins. After that kind of first season of seeing them play, I held him in a much higher regard than Andrew Wiggins, and what I thought Levine's potential and what he could become was. But he's been hooping. He's been hooping for sure for that Chicago team. He's currently averaging 26, 5, and 4. He had 45 points and 38 points against the Lakers and Clippers, respectfully, while the Bulls were in L.A. Levine's a beast. He's a big, big piece to that Bulls future. I'm pretty sure he's gotten that. I think he's got paid. I think they paid him. So they might need to pay him more next time. Because he's looking like a franchise cornerstone for them. Levine's been great. More than just a dunker. He's a great scorer. Can do a little bit of everything as well. But yeah, again, I guess this is my episode where I'm giving all of the underrated two guards their flowers. Beal to start off. Now I'm talking about Lavine. But Bulls not a very good team, but Lavine is a very good player. We'll see if Kobe White. I know Patrick Williams bragged on him a lot heading into the season, but Patrick Williams has been great so far in his NBA career. This rookie class has really played above what was expected of them, so I have to give a shout out to them. And that is a perfect transition into the next guy. He's been the talk of the town. He's the man of the hour, and that's Lamelo Ball. Youngest player to ever get a triple-double. He had the best game of his season 2 days ago. 22 points, 11 assists, 12 rebounds. I feel pretty comfortable raising LaMelo's floor a little bit because of just the fact that I feel like he's a triple threat, a triple-double threat every single time he steps on the court. He's got the potential to go off for a triple-dot. He's that good of a rebounder as a guard. He's great at attacking the rim and grabbing those rebounds. Uses that height well. Has great positioning as well. And also, of course, we knew about the elite playmaking. We heard about it. And he's been able to display it so far, especially in this game. 22 points. He went 9 for 14. This was his most efficient game as well so far this season. His efficiency numbers haven't been too bad. He's had those little moments here and there, but he's a rookie, so we'll see. We'll see what happens there for Melo. LaMelo, we can't give him the Melo title yet. He's got to earn that Melo title. The only Melo in the league is Carmelo. So we're gonna have to stick with that LaMelo for right now until he earns that Melo. We just can't give it to him. But yeah, LaMelo Ball. He's been pretty good. We'll see if he can become consistent again. My major things with him was that scoring efficiency and can he become an efficient scorer. That kind of, I don't think he's ever going to be a transcendent player like he's hyped to be. But if he wants to reach superstar levels, got to be an efficient scorer. And, of course, that defense. Got to get better defensively. But outplayed his brother, youngest ever triple-double. Good week for Lamelo. Got to give a shout, though he didn't play great last night. Chef Curry's been phenomenal for the Warriors, looking like an MVP candidate. Averaging 30 a game. He's doing a lot of heavy lifting. It's been an up and down season for the Warriors, but it has not been an up and down season for Steph Curry. He's looking like MVP Curry, honestly. Dude's been great. Besides the off game he had, last night, been relatively dominant. We'll see if Curry can continue it and continue to lift this team and march potentially towards another MVP. Kelly Oubre. I saw some crazy statistic where if he wasn't 6 for whatever from 3, that the Warriors, who are currently 14th, I think, in 3-point percentage, if you take away Oubre's shots, they're like 4th. If that helps you quantify and understand how bad Kelly Oubre's been as a Golden State Warrior. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if he's just trying to get adjusted. I don't know what's going on with Oubre. But dude's been god-awful. Again, we'll see what happens with the rest of that Warriors team. They're definitely one of the most interesting teams to follow, I think, this season with all the storylines going on there. Wiseman, Dre, a lot of interesting players. And, we'll see if Curry for MVP continues. But, that's the MVP. Early days. And, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the Roundup. And I want to start off with something. That I should have mentioned actually in the college basketball aspect. Ladies and gentlemen, Sharife Cooper is free. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. The NCAA freed Sharife Cooper, one of the best point guards in the country. And really, I think one of the best point guards. I know his concerns about his size, but I do not care. He's played with bigger players all his career, and it hasn't been a problem. Have you seen the way he attacks? It's not going to be as much of a problem, I think, as people are making it up to be. Anyway, Sharife Cooper is back, and back in a big way. He had 26 and 9 in his return game against Alabama. They did take the L, though, but and Sharife looked like a freshman, made some mistakes there in those last 2 minutes, but overall, a great debut for Sharife. I think that's going to really turn that Auburn team around, and I'm very excited to see Sharife play the rest of the season. Definitely going to try to catch some of those Auburn games. Good to have him back, and it's going to be fun to watch him and see how he plays over the season. But back to my original Roundup. High school sports are back. High school football has been going on, but of course it is the turn of the year. And high school sports are about to come back for everybody, but particularly I'm going to talk about Texas high school football, some of the best high school football in the country, bar maybe Cali and Florida, and you can argue it's even better. Well, in the top division, we had some interesting stuff take place. Westlake took out North Shore. North Shore, the number 2 team in the country, defending 2-time Texas State champions, led by that dynamic duo, one of the best duos in Texas high school football history, of Demetrius Davis, the quarterback, headed to Auburn, and of course Shadrick Banks, the wide receiver, honestly running back wide receiver hybrid, headed to Texas A&M. They've been mighty. A lot of people were wondering if Davis might be the greatest high school quarterback in the history of Texas. They had all of the hype, but they got humbled this week. Westlake knocked them down. Number 2 team in the country. Westlake also a top 10 team in the country. It was a great matchup, but Westlake pulls off the upset, and they will be taking on in the state championship the number 1 player in the class of 2022, quite possibly a generational quarterback. We'll see how these next 2 we'll see how the next 2 seasons go for him before we give him that label. But he has a perfect 1,000 rating in the 24/7 composite. Of course, I'm talking about Quinn Ewers, headed to Ohio State, the top player in the country, possibly regardless of class. Don't quote me on that. We can argue about that. We'll see. I won't make any claims there. Just going off by what they're saying. He in South Lake Carroll pulled off the upset against Kendrick Blackshear, the linebacker headed to Bama, known as Thanos, in Duncanville. Big win there. We got the Dodge Bowl. We got a father-son matchup in the head coaches for Texas in the Texas State Championship, so that's cool to see. Actually, the last time South Lake Carroll was in the state championship, their head coach was the quarterback, and the head coach for Westlake was South Lake Carroll's head coach. So we got that father-son matchup. Plenty of storylines there. They're calling it the Dodge Bowl because the Dodge is the last name of the two coaches, whatever. Big win for South Lake Carroll. Two major matchups in high school football. Two very good matchups. They were two very entertaining matchups. A lot of great players there. We'll see what goes on between South Lake Carroll and Westlake and see how that goes down. And to end the podcast, we have the USA. Ladies and gentlemen, we took out Canada in the World Junior Championships for hockey. Spencer Knight with the shutout. Florida Panthers prospect. I know they're very excited about him. The Anaheim Ducks are very excited about the MVP who showed out. 18 points in 7 games. World Juniors MVP for Trevor Zegras. Dude looked like a future superstar. He looked great. All tournament long. 27 for a career. Ties the World Juniors record as well. We'll miss having him at the World Juniors. He was a great player for us. Going to be interesting if he can contend for that Calder this year. I certainly think he'll make the Ducks regular season and main team. And this is him coming off of a layoff. The rest of his guys, the rest of his boys on that World Juniors USA team have been playing college hockey, but Zegras turned professional. Went overseas, but that got canceled because of COVID. So long layoff, but looked like he'd been working because I think this was the best version we've seen of Trevor Zegras. We'll be very interested to see how he goes into his rookie season in the NHL. And go USA. I know we've had a lot of turmoil in the country, but great to see us get this one international victory in this case. But that's it for episode 23. Very sports heavy. Of course, nothing happening in entertainment. Maybe I'll watch Soul this week so I can have something next week. Maybe Drake will drop Certified Lover Boy. Can somebody tell him and remind the Sixth God that he did say he was dropping the album this month? I'm not impatient, but where is it at? We haven't even gotten a release date. Listen, you know what? It is what it is. But, of course, thank you for watching. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys have a great week. Next episode, we'll be back in the 704. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Ocho signing off.